Hi, thanks for joining us at Math Business Online. We're going to talk a little bit about color coding and symbols today. This spreadsheet is a typical spreadsheet for your data. So you've got, accounts that have been brought in here, sales accounts, account name, you've got an address, a zip code, a city, a state, all in nice columns. And then you've got any other data that you might have. And so these two columns here, type and classification, could be categories within your data. So active account, house account, inactive account. You can see these different types of data. Classification, house account, land prospect. These are different referral types. So these are just different types of data that you might be able to classify by color coding. And so I'm just going to quickly go through the process of importing that data, which is really quite easy. So if we go to recent places and we pull in an Excel spreadsheet, and you'll watch it come in, this first page just grabs the data, this next dialog page puts those buckets in place. So that address and the zip code and the city, unless you've named your column heading something wacky, they should fall right into place. If they don't, you can always override it and pick another column. Click next and think about labeling. What do you want on the actual label of your data? You can just grab your columns in your data and throw them up as part of a label on the map. And then we plot the data. So when the data plots, it's going to put some sort of symbol on the map, those blue dots, and then it's going to give you that data window to look at. And that data window is always available right there. That little spreadsheet button gives you the data window. Now your Symbology, your library of Symbology is located right here. Lots of different options that are stock symbols with the program, and all of these options are labels that I imported. I went out and found a Denny's flag, and I went out and found, Bradley Cooper's picture, and you can see all of those things can come in and populate the map. But let's go back to simply a black dot, and let's make that black dot a little bit smaller like I talked about in the article. And there you have somewhat of a density view. So you could go into that particular area and kind of get a sense of where most of your activity is going on. Now if we go up here to this cannonball pile of different colored dots and we click that, your data is automatically selected. Now if you had brought in more than one data set, then you'd have an option here and you could pick which data set you wanted to color code. So your data that you've just imported is automatically selected. And so we only need to pick the column that we want to color code against. So let's say we wanted to do type or classification or category. So in this case, we have active, house, inactive, and prospect accounts within our data. We have 4 different types. If we had up to 56 types, we could bring them all in. But remember, you can clutter your map when you do that. So do that only when absolutely necessary to achieve the purpose in your map's communication. Whatever you're trying to communicate is what you're trying to affect here with your color coding. I'm going to make these a little bit smaller. Those percentages reflect size of your symbols. And I'm going to leave the symbolization the way it is, but I do have that option of going in there and picking from any of my symbol sets and applying them right here. And then there's some functions down here for copying symbols and symbol sizes and utilizing other ways to manage the way your data looks. So you could do ramp sizes to reflect various values in your data. But let's go down here to this no symbols section and use this symbol for locations that are not in any group. That means if in your business data, in this particular column, you have records that are empty, you could choose to have that black dot or some other symbol represent empty data columns. That's all that means. In this case, I'm just going to go no symbol. So now we have our data is colorized or color-coded. We have the legend, which actually shows all of the information that we want our people to see. And again, you can edit that legend. So if I went in there and chose that particular data set and decided, they don't need to see all that stuff. That's just the spreadsheet data. So I'm going to just call it major accounts because that's what we use every day. And so they'll know what that means and type. Let's just leave that out and update the legend. And now I've got a simple, straightforward legend that helps communicate my information. And so you can see you hover over this data and up it comes, and that's Lynn Adams' account, and it's got so much value there, $2,500, and this is all based on the labeling that we put it in. So now I am going to try another approach. So instead of color coding by point, let's try color code by circle. So color code by circle within Map Business Online means you can take different sales columns. You can take different columns with numeric values. So let's say we're going to just use sales information now, because in our data we have a column for sales which has dollar values in it. And we are going to have two different two different points in the continuum to base our size of our circle on. And we'll go like that, and then we'll make this one really big so that we can make our outstanding players seem more outstanding, and we'll make them bright green, and we'll make these lower players a little bit more Lord of the Rings. You know, they've got a ways to go. And we'll make our font normal, but we'll make it italics, and then we'll click done. So that's a pretty busy map. But in some cases, you may want to show your data that way. So if we drill in and look at things a little bit closer in, you'll see this starts to become maybe more meaningful. Like right here, things are just trumping each other. So you could go back and you could play with that circle again, and you could say, well, I'm making this too big, bring it down a bit, and it's a little bit more manageable. So you have the ability to edit these things as well. And let's just go back out and see how that looks. So another way that you might want to describe a value within your product is by using a heat map view. So again, your data is already selected because you've only got one data set in there. You click that heat map button, and now you've got some options to think about. So what color scheme would you like to have? Like, what's your hot area? How about red? We'll do that. And let's set that radius around that point. How many, miles do you want to go out and show some sort of radius of heat around your points? And then you can choose which data column you really want to describe. And in ours, let's go with sales again. So these are sales dollars. We're going to describe that. What I love about the heat map view is when you've got a map that describes a lot of different things in your world, in your business world, and you want to just show another layer that stands out, and maybe it's something that you turn off and on in a presentation, use a heat map, because it can get the point across pretty quickly. You can see right now where most of the major sales are taking place, that they're in the Boston, maybe Washington, D.C., that's some city in Ohio, and Pittsburgh. So that's where a lot of that sales activity is happening. That's what's great about the heat map. It quickly communicates a message. And again, you can go back in and you can tweak the radius and you can tweak the colors and try something different and see if that doesn't work better. But it serves like a severe weather map, and suddenly you've got people's attention because they see something wrong on the map at first, and then they quickly realize it's related to sales. And the other thing, I think we talked about imported symbols, so I think we're good. That's what we wanted to talk about in terms of color coding your map data in Map Business Online using the Symbology tools that we've got available. Thanks very much. Go to mapbusinessonline.com and take our free